Well, hi folks, early July now, so I'm going to still be sowing some seeds. I'll show you what I'm going to be sowing and how we do it. Couldn't be easier. So I'm going to continue to sow lettuce, and I know I keep banging on about this new variety I've found called Verdagio, and they're in pelleted seed form. Absolutely fantastic variety. I was a bit disappointed that they discontinued multigrain, but these are a far better replacement, and honestly they're a brilliant lettuce. Really crispy, lasts for ages, no problems, no pests, no diseases that I've found so far. So Verdagio, and I've also got another, it's virtually the same shape and everything else, but it's called Classio, and that's a red variety of Verdagio, so I'm going to try that. Not tried that yet. Like I said, they are pelleted seeds, you don't get many, but the price has come down even this year, so these were £1.50 for 20 seeds, so 7.5p a lettuce. And because they've got 100% germination, you're not wasting any anyway. So 4 of each of those. I've got another crispy lettuce called Can. They say it's an endive type, but I'm not too sure about that. I'm going to grow a little bit more Rocket. And then we've got some more of the Land Cress, which I've been raving about too. Fantastic stuff, just doesn't seem to have any problem, keeps growing and growing. I think I did grow a little bit too much because obviously I could be taking bucketfuls of the stuff, so I'm just going to grow another 4 of those, so just 20 of those. And then what else I'm going to do, the peas I'm harvesting at the moment, where those are going to be dug up from, I'm going to plant some turnip. So I'm going to plant Milan purple top and Milan white turnips. I'm going to grow those in modules as well, try and put roughly about 4 seeds in each module, so they grow in a clump like a lot of other things. So another thing to grow. And then finally, if I can find it, I'm just going to do another small batch of spring onions, so just to keep those growing. I've been planting spring onions and lettuce every month since March, April time, so just to keep giving me a continuous crop. So these couldn't be easier to do. We'll start off with the lettuce seeds. I've just made a little dimple in each one of the holes. I can never get into these seeds for some reason, and because the big seeds compared to lettuce, they're dead easy to sow, these pelleted seeds. And as I said, they do give you, probably can't see, 100% germination. So I'll just plonk 1 in each. Same with the Classio, which is the red variety. So like I said, if you've never tried it, which you probably won't have tried this variety because they are very new on the market, I think they're more of a commercial seed. I'd really advise you to give them a go because they are fantastic, and definitely a better replacement as far as I'm concerned for multigrain, which I used to rave about too. So you just got to try these different varieties, see what they're like. I've tried two other different varieties this year. I tried a big course called Paris Island course, which was good. It grew fantastic big leaves and things, but it was a little bit coarse for me. It was a bit too rough and quite stringy when it got a little bit big. So like I said, I tried it, I'm not too keen on it, so I won't bother with that again. And the other one I grew, which was Black Seeded Simpson, bit likewise, it just grew absolutely enormous, huge, and then it just went to seed really quickly. So I'm just going to stick to these pelleted seeds from now on because they just seem to cover all the bases. So we'll get a bit of Rocket in. Rocket, as you know, is the tiniest seed, so I'm going to try and just get the tiniest bit in. You can't even see them, they're virtually microscopic. And it's a good time to grow Rocket now that the days are shortening, unfortunately, because and cooling down a bit. Well, it will be in a month or two, but it tends to go to seed in shorter days, does Rocket. So the later you sow it, the more sort of success you can have. And finally, the Land Cress, which is absolutely idiot proof. You just seem to be able to grow it anywhere. It says it grows better in damper and moist soil, but to be honest, with the weather we've had this year, it's been that dry and it's still absolutely flown along. No problems. It's only just starting to go to seed now, after about 2 months of harvesting, so you can't really go wrong with that. So all I'm going to do with these is just, as normal, just cover them up with a little bit of compost with my finger. they won't take long to germinate at this time of year. They'll probably be up in a week, so then I'll just grow them on, and then when they're big enough we'll just transplant them outside and some into the polytunnel, because it's started raining a lot up here now and I'm getting problems with slugs, so if I can get things still in the polytunnel, that'll solve a lot of problems. So that's the lettuce done, and Rocket and things, that's 20 of those. Couldn't be easier. Now, like I said, I'm going to grow some turnip where the peas have been growing. I can't get into these. They're grip seal bags, but they don't have a grip. They're just welded shut. So, like I said, I'm going to grow red ones, purple ones, and white ones. I'm going to try to aim to get about 4 seeds in each module. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 4, 5, 3. And I'll probably plant these out about 6 foot, sorry, not 6 foot, 6 inches apart when they're big enough to transplant. And that'll give me a 20-foot row, which is a 10-foot row of these. And they do grow very quickly, so they'll be up and ready in about probably 6 to 8 weeks. And it's just nice to have something a little bit different, like little turnips, something different to add. Where did I put these? Oh, I've started them there. So yeah, these should be germinate really quickly, being quite big seeds. They do tend to germinate quick. So we'll see how they get on from being grown in modules, because like I said, I've never done them in modules before. I've always direct sowed them, but I always direct sowed at far too many, and it was always a real faff thinning them out. And then when you thinned them out, along came the slugs and thinned them out even more. So hopefully this way, by the time they're big enough to be planted out, they should be sturdy enough to look after themselves, and then I can get a decent row and the slugs shouldn't bother them. So that's that done. And then finally, just going to grow just a dozen modules of spring onions, white Lisbon as normal. I've got some red ones, but I've got absolutely loads of those growing, so I was a bit short on white Lisbon earlier, so I'm just going to stick with white Lisbon, spring onions. And again with these, I'm going to try and aim for about probably 6 or 7. Doesn't matter if you put 8 or 5 in, because then they're just going to grow in a big clump. Then you just harvest the whole clump, and you've got yourself a bunch of spring onions, just like you get from the shop. And it couldn't be easier. I always find that they do really take off a lot quicker when you sow them in modules than sowing them directly into the soil. Never had any success years ago when I used to sow them in just direct, but this way, once you just get them going, it really gives them a head start. And we'll keep sowing these until probably September, same with the lettuce, so we can just have a successional crop of a bit more salady stuff until maybe the first frost if we're lucky. So there we go, folks. That's what I'm sowing in early July. Bit more successional sowing of salad stuff. That's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? Anyway, that's about it, folks. See you later.